Good morning. Today we look at Joshua 16, 17, and 18. And, we yesterday started talking about the distribution of the lands among the different tribes. And, it's a big long list there, especially in chapter 15. But yet we're just barely getting started. Chapter 16 starts out with the allotment of the Josephites, by the Jordan, to the tribe of Joseph. And it describes, says the Josephites, Manasseh and Ephraim, those are the two sons of Joseph that are there. And anyway, they start, this is the land that they get. And then we get to verse 14, and they complain to Joshua, hey, we're a lot of people. We should get more than one allotment, right? And, why have you given me but one lot and one portion as an inheritance, since we are a numerous people? We want more. They're not satisfied, which, I don't know. But it just, everybody always wants more, right? But so Joshua says to them, well, if you are so numerous, go to the forest and clear it and claim that land. And, well, in a way that kind of sounds like too much work, but that ends up, what they do. The hill country shall be yours, for it's a forest. You will clear it and possess it, and you will drive out the Canaanites. Though they have chariots of iron, it was another one of those things that, these are some strong people there. They got chariots of iron, wow. But Joshua reminds them, that, God is with them and that you've got the power, the ability to do that. So here, they're going to drive out these Canaanites, and they do, but it's just, there's some surprises in here, and I'm going to back up to the last verse of chapter 15. The people of Judah could not drive out the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So those Jebusites lived, in harmony with them. But so it's a puzzle in my mind that just doesn't completely fit together, right? Of, God clearing the lands, and all of a sudden here's some that they can't. But here the Canaanites, who look so powerful, they drive out. And so basically chapter 16 and 17 pretty much deal with the Josephite tribe, and the lands that they get. And then chapter 18, it seems like we've had lots of land already described. Well, there's still 7 allotments, 7 tribes that haven't got their land apportioned to them yet. And I'm thinking, how can that be? It seems like we've been reading quite a bit of that already. But so Joshua, how long will you be slack in going out and taking possession of the land the Lord is giving you? Don't sit here and lollygag around and complain about things. Go do it. Because God is with you. God will, lead and guide. And so he asks them to provide 3 men from each tribe that they can go throughout the land, writing a description and a view of their inheritances, and then come back to me, and they will divide it into 7 portions. So it'd be 21 people that would go out, 7 tribes, 3 people from each tribe, and you'll describe the land in 7 divisions and bring it, and I will cast lots. So the people that go out to survey the land will make the, excuse me, the ones that survey the land will, mark the boundaries, have 7 areas set out, and then they will cast lots to see, Joshua will cast lots to see who gets what. So they go, and, the charge, their instructions, go throughout the land, write a description, come back, and I will write lots. So the men went out, traveled the land, and set down in a book the description of it by towns, in 7 divisions. And they came back to the camp at Shiloh. And then, the first, verse 11, the lot of the tribe of Benjamin, according to the families, came up. And the territory allotted to it fell, between the land of Judah and the tribe of Joseph. And on the north side, the boundary, it spells out the boundaries of this land. And it goes in, and you start. I mean, it's an awful lot to read to try to figure out, well, where does this boundary go? And it's just, I mean, it's kind of makes me think about how did the boundaries of our states get figured out and divided out? I remember reading in history, the Louisiana Purchase, when the United States purchased that, there was, there were, I mean, part of it was the Mississippi River and different, but in our states today, I mean, yeah, between like Minnesota, North and South Dakota, well, there's, the river divides in there, and but not all rivers create the boundaries, because the Mississippi River starts up in northern Minnesota, and, that's not a boundary of a state, but, and some of them are on the, the parallel, the longitude and latitude lines, but it figuring out, okay, where do the divisions come, and how do we follow this line, and some of them jut this way and that way, and but here they've walked this land, they've drawn it out on the map and figure it out, and then they include the towns, in all of it, and the chapter 18 ends with, now the towns of the tribe of Benjamin, according to their families, were, and it lists this group of towns, 14 towns, along with their villages. So, I mean, so the villages weren't towns. So, I mean, there were towns like Fargo, and so then what are the villages? I mean, Harwood, and, so there's more than just, 14 actual towns within it, because there's these villages. So, and it's, we have cities and we have towns and that in our world today as well. But, some of them are mentioned and some of them aren't. And so we've spent a few chapters just on dividing out the first ones. And as we get into chapter 19 tomorrow, I mean, boom, all of a sudden, here they are. They're just, we're kind of done, quick, with not nearly as much detail on some of them. But it's God putting the land into the hands of the people, and then the people determining, working together to figure out, okay, how are we going to settle this land, and what are we going to do? And so, as I read through this Old Testament lesson today, it was, I didn't stop and try to make sense out of where all those boundaries go. And so when I looked at the New Testament reading today, which is the birth narrative of Jesus in Luke 2, I mean, much more comfortable reading, much more likable to read the story of the birth of the Christ child. And I think that's one of the beauties of having the Bible put together as it is in this Bible Gateway program. The Bible Gateway is set up as a way to read the Bible in a year, but like the one that's in Our Daily Bread, which I'm following, is right now is just a smidgen different than excuse me. Then it's like one day off in the readings, but it's nice to have that balance of New Testament and Old Testament. And in our New Testament, we've already read two accounts of the crucifixion and resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ, and we know that those never get easier to read, but it's just like this Old Testament lesson today. It just kind of bogs you down in all of the detail, whereas the New Testament reading today, as I said, from Luke 2, the story of the birth of Christ, bringing him to the temple at the end of it. We didn't read, tomorrow we'll get Simeon and Anna, but it's a nice balance to help us read through the Bible in a year's time. And for those of you that have been reading with me for just about 6 years, I mean, we've gone through it and learned an awful lot, I think. I mean, I know I have, and it's good practice, I think, to just read some Old Testament, some New Testament, and that way you don't just get bogged down and say, man, I just can't handle this. There's always something a little bit different between Old Testament and New.